Number 1. I was very young, around 2 or 3, and had an experience that still scares me to this day. My bedroom was in the back of our house, against the alley. There were no fences, and for some reason I didn't have any blinds. I did, however, have sheer white curtains. One morning, very early, probably around 4 a.m., I was up in my room with the lights on and was playing. I would normally get up very early so I could watch cartoons. I remember a knock at my window, and today I describe the person there as looking like a witch, like one from The Wizard of Oz, green face and all. My window was open because we didn't have air conditioning and it was the summer. I don't remember if I had a conversation with this witch. I just remember that somehow they knew my name and said, "You better be a good girl, or I'll come back for you." Obviously, this scared me immensely and I ran to my parents' bedroom. My mom didn't believe me until the next day, when she went outside and saw her flowers had been trampled below my window. We didn't live there long or really know anyone, so I can't explain this situation. It's always sat with me, in my mind, and even today I'm frightened of being watched through my window. Number 2. Ever since I was a baby, I've lived in the same country home. It's always been a lovely place to live, beautiful scenery and crawling with farm animals and wildlife. Basically an outdoorsy childhood paradise. In 2007, my little brother was born and everything around the house was normal until maybe mid-2010. Jake, my little brother, would stumble around to one specific corner of the living room and just babble and laugh at seemingly nothing. We thought it was just his first imaginary friend, no big deal. He would always refer to his friend as the cowboy, and wouldn't really talk about him unless we pried information out of him. We didn't really think of it as a big deal until we got our first puppy. Almost immediately, as he first came home, he would sit and stare at the same corner and bark and wag his tail, and even roll on his back like he wanted his belly rubbed. This was when we started to get legitimately concerned. My mom and I have always been believers in the paranormal, but we've never had a true experience before this. Mom started asking Jake more and more things about his friend. Jake would refuse to say anything to her. Finally, my father has had enough about the whole thing and got Jake to tell us everything about the cowboy. This is what Jake said. "The cowboy used to live here before us. He has a gray shirt and has 2 shots, here and here." He pointed to his arm and then to his head. "He says he doesn't like you, Daddy. He stays far away on the porch when you're here. He's mad we live on his farm. It's believed that animals and children have a stronger perception to the spirits than adults. Whatever my baby brother saw was something we couldn't see or sense. Whoever or whatever the cowboy is, I really don't want to ever stumble into him." Number 3. I was about 25 and out drinking with a friend. We ended up talking with some women at my pub for most of the night, and we ended up going back to their place. Just my luck, the woman I liked passed out on the couch, so I decided to walk home at 2:30 in the morning like an idiot. I had to walk through one of the worst neighborhoods to get home, and about halfway, I passed a 24-hour adult novelty store and I decided to check it out. I noticed that they had an area with a private booth showing videos. I stepped into the dark booth and deposited some quarters. The screen comes on, and to the side of the button I see movement. I look closer and it's a small hole, and I can see an eye looking at me. Immediately I got out of the booth and walked out, too embarrassed to tell the person manning the counter. About 5 minutes into walking home, I got that feeling, and I turned my head quick, and I see a man freeze. He's across the street about 100 feet behind me. It was a guy in his mid-50s with shorter length gray hair and a long pale face with penetrating eyes. We stared at each other for a second until I noticed he had something in his hand. His shoes. My first thought was this guy's trying to sneak up on me, and I yelled "fuck you" in the deepest voice I could muster, and he turned around and walked away. I ran for a while until I was home. I went to bed. Something wakes me up at 4 in the morning. A few seconds go by and I hear it again. It's a cigarette lighter right outside my first floor window. I laid there for a second wondering if this guy really followed me home. I stayed awake until the sun came up. Once it was light outside, I grabbed a bat and went outside to have a look. The guy was gone, but he left a note in the dirt under my window. Just 2 words: slice you. I spent the last month of my lease paranoid, but luckily I never saw him again. Number 4. I was delivering a pizza to a hospital one night, and I went in the doors that were on the delivery description. I wound up at a check-in desk where no one was around. Behind me were several recovery rooms with all the lights out. I looked around for anyone who might have placed the order, but ended up just hanging at the desk for a few minutes. From the room directly to my right, I could hear a sad, weak voice say, "I just want to go home." I turned and saw a man with several tubes in and out of him. His lamp was faintly lit, and he was locking eyes with me. At that moment, the person who ordered showed up at the desk, and we did the little pizza exchange. As I turned around to leave, I looked into the room where the guy with the tubes was, and there was no one there. No light on, no tubes, and no sign that anyone had ever been using that bed. I made sure it was the correct room by pretending to forget where the door was, and I examined a few more rooms in the area, all of which were empty. It still freaks me out. Number 5. This happened about 10 years ago. I went to a bar with some buddies of mine for dinner and a couple of drinks. I live on a dead-end street, so traffic's pretty light. I'm driving home, and I notice this car is following me. I didn't think too much about it at the time. I pulled onto my street, and this car continues to follow. This car pulls up beside me, and the driver motions for me to roll down the window because he has something he wants to say. I lean over and roll down the window, and the guy says, "Hey." I then see someone in the back seat. He leans forward towards the driver and says, No, that's not the guy." The guy in the front seat then says, "Oh, forget it, man. Just go to sleep." I give him a confused look and he just repeats, "Go to sleep." He then drives off. Afterwards, it dawns on me that he probably had a gun on his lap and thought I was the guy that wronged his buddy in the back seat. I was leaned over right towards him, so he would have shot me in the head if he thought I was guilty. Number 6. So I was at a friend's house one night, and it's this massive house, sort of a castle really. The inside is very old-timey and the outside reflects that. Anyway, me and my 3 other friends are in this one room called the Mushroom because of the color of the walls. It's about 2 in the morning and we just finished watching a movie. My friend Joe says that he's super hungry. My other friend Jack said that there's no food downstairs that is going to be easy to make. So we decided to go into town about 10 minutes away on our bikes. My other friend Pete is sleeping and he tells us to go without him. We leave the house and it's pitch black. We cycle a route until we get onto this road that leads us back to the castle. Joe tells us to pull over because he's got to piss. I look up at Jack's face and it's as pale as a ghost. I ask him what's wrong, but he doesn't answer. He's just fixated on something on the other side of the street. Fear washes over me when I see this old man in a window of an elderly home on the other side of the street. This man is just looking at us with a look that I can only describe as pure evil. His eyes are sunk into his head, and he has this satanic smile slowly spreading from ear to ear. We cycle on. I turn around to see this man is still staring. He lifts his hand and waves us goodbye. We cycle as fast as our legs can push and get into a lane that leads us back to the castle. I look up to see something that will stay with me to the grave. I slam on my brakes. I turn to them, and all I can muster is a stammer. It's him in the window. He's in the room with Pete. They look up and confirm my fears. That same man is in the room where we were sleeping, looking at us with the same smile and the same dead eyes. He waved at us in the same way he did when we left. He then turned and walked away from the window. We saw the shadow of his torso on the curtains. The light in the room then went off. We rushed inside. Jack picked up an old 12 gauge left over the mantelpiece and loaded it with 2 shells. We walked upstairs and burst into the room. There was no one there. The room was just as we left it, and Pete was still breathing. I don't know if what we saw was real. We never told any of our parents, and we never told Pete. It's an experience that will haunt me forever.